about 2 weeks ago. If you didn't notice, Google My Business is not Google My Business anymore. It is called Google Business Profile. So it doesn't roll off the tongue as well. And then, it becomes a problem because as SEOs, we're like, do we call it GMB? Do we call it GBP? How do we optimize for that when we're writing? And so whether clients are still going to call it probably Google My Business for many years, because there's still people calling it like Google Places and Google Plus and all kinds of stuff. So, but as SEOs, when we're trying to optimize it, it just causes more headaches, and it's just harder to say, to be honest. So what's new in GBP? So we got a couple new categories. I do this every time, and we got funeral celebrant service and vehicle wrapping service, and we got 2 removed categories. So let's talk about the removed categories first. So what happens when Google removes a category is that Google will pick the closest category. So you really have to pay attention. There's other ones, just like process server, that it might have chosen for you if you did have this. So just be aware, because it may not be exactly what you want anymore. So for the new categories, and I'm going to give an example with the vehicle wrapping service, because that's pretty specific, but there's a lot of businesses that do that. And so right now, people are using like advertising agency and sign shop and car accessory store and decal supplier, because there was no exact match category for you, right? There was no vehicle wrapping service. So first thing is, go ahead, if you have clients, change it over right away. You're going to get a boost in the rankings, right? Because now that's your primary category. It's an exact match to the keywords that people are searching for. So go ahead and change that. That's why I tell you every month all the new ones. If there's still no category that exactly matches your service, you have to do what they were doing before. Pick all the ones that kind of make sense, that have your kind of keyword in it. Do your best. But remember that all the competition is going to be in the same boat as you, right? So it's not like you're at a disadvantage. So where you have to tell the algorithm is you have to put content on your website to like have those exact matches. So let's say there wasn't any vehicle wrapping service yet. What you would have to do is on your homepage of your website and the content of your website, you would have vehicle wrapping, car wrapping, auto wrapping, whatever it is. On your website, the website information would feed into the GMB. And so when someone typed in vehicle wrapping, they would find you because your website had that content. So just know that if there's no exact match, then your website really has to be optimized for that specific keyword. This is what we did last month. We went through everything. I did a speed run through all this stuff. There is a link to like the old webinar, so you can go through that and really slow it down and get.
I'll get that, Jan. It's in the private Facebook group, right?
Yeah.
And if you need access to that, you can request access. Just go into the chat, and Ryan McAllister will put a link there. You'll see it in the chat. You can get access to the private Facebook group if you want to see the recording of the complete run through on Google Business Profile Optimization.
That's right. And so what we're going to just do a quick summary here. These are the important things. So GPP is, again, GMB, the name, the category, the website. Those are the main 3 important ranking factor pieces of information. Citations have to be built out, create points of engagement. So there's lots of questions that we're going to go through now about reviews and posts and pictures, and all those things create points of engagement. And that is a ranking factor. The more people click on your listing, that's engagement, right? And then your local backlinks. I'm not going to talk about backlinks today because it's just way too much, and that's like so varied. So I'm going to concentrate on the questions that you guys asked last time, and then we'll keep going from there. So let's just start out. So I want to track calls from GMB, but I'm afraid of using call tracking because it'll affect my NAP. So the NAP is just an abbreviation: name, address, phone number. And in this case, no, it doesn't affect that. This is kind of like old thinking, where everything had to match perfectly, and so the pieces of data that Google was crawling wasn't matching on the Google Business Profile, and there was a mismatch which lowered the trust of, and so Google didn't want to rank something that it didn't trust, right? So right now, Google changed that a long time ago, actually. So what you do is in your GMB, I'm going to call it GMB because it's easier. On your primary phone number, if you want to put your tracking number, and then you put your original phone number as the additional phone number. So now when Google is on your website and it sees a phone number, it's going to match this one. And Google knows that, well, no, that's fine. It matches. We have all the information. Everything is matching, lining up. We trust that information. Everything's good. So that's how you do tracking numbers. If you have other phone numbers, you add them in. That's all. You can add a whole bunch. We have one main phone number, but 6 incoming lines that are routed to unique numbers. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. As long as your data is matching up, you can imagine lots of tracking numbers are all going to one number. They're all being, I have a tracking number for Bing and for Facebook, and there's because I want to track properly, all that's going to one number. It doesn't make a difference. So as long as your additional phone number fields are entered properly, then you're good. So if there's any other phone questions, let me know. I know I'm going quick, so just put them in, and that way I kind of grouped all these things as best as I can. So I'm going to do SABs now. So can the SAB set up multiple GMBs if they have staff who can use their address for their profile? So the answer is no, you're not allowed to use employee addresses. So imagine you're a plumber and you have 5 guys working for you. You can't set up a listing at each one of those places because you're not actually in control of those locations. You're not renting, you don't have a lease there. You can imagine that if the person leaves the business, then now there's a listing at that person's address and there's legal issues, and things like that. So you can't set up listings at employee addresses. Service pages. So how narrow can you go with your location? So instead of targeting just the normal cities, can you target the smaller and neighborhoods? So of course you can. So we're talking about creating pages on your website that will target parts of the city. And I'm going to go through some examples right now just to give an idea of what we're talking about. So what we want to target when we're doing location pages are things that Google knows about, right? So if you look at this map of Toronto, you'll see there's town names everywhere, and I'm going to highlight some right now. And you see there's York, there's East York, and they're a little bit bigger than these other ones, Bedford Park and the Junction, right? So Google knows that these are bigger areas. These are sub-towns in Toronto, and they're a little bit bigger than the other places. So when you're creating service page, location pages on your website, go to your map and zoom up high level and just start zooming in one row at a time. You do it with your mouse, just zoom in, and these names will start to appear. Start with those. As you zoom in, you're going to start to see more and more little town names. So start with the big ones and then go down as you zoom in. So that's how I would do it. Don't do zip codes because people don't search for zip codes. People will search, plumber in the Junction, right? Plumber in Bedford Park, plumber in East York. That's how people search. People don't search plumber in 11101, right? They don't really do that. So do it that way. So definitely you can, and this is how you would. This is how I prioritize which cities to do. Now there's other ways to prioritize depending on how many people live in an area, the density, how much money people make in a certain area. So you can target different ways, but in general, you can start like this.
Hey, Jan, before you go to the next question,
yeah.
Dennis had a question. This is related actually to the phone number thing you were talking about okay. What if I have tracking numbers? Is that going to screw things up? So his question is regarding tracking number on the website. Does the same go there? Just have the original number somewhere?
Yeah, so there's a lot of trackings. People will put the code, call tracking metrics and it'll swap the phone number on your site, but it swaps it after. So Google's read your information already. And then the number will switch depending on the entry. I know I might be getting too technical for people, but if you have a swapping number, Google still sees the original because it's in the code. It's just that it's getting switched after visually. So there's no issue. Google's smart now with that kind of thing. So just make sure your original number is an additional number. That's the main important part. What's the best way to have citations for businesses with service areas where the address is hidden in Google? So this is hard because it depends on what you want to, if I'm a business owner and I'm working out of my house, do I really, really want to hide my address from everyone? Like I can hide it on GMB, so it's hidden. But now if I want to really not have anyone know where I live, then I'm not going to be creating citations, because most of the citations and directories require an address. And if I don't want that out there, then I'm not going to make those citations. But if you don't care, make those citations. It doesn't matter. And there's the next question. It doesn't matter if Google sees the information, as long as you're hiding it on your GMB, because the rule for GMB is that if you're at a residential and you don't have signage, then you need to hide your address. Okay. So there's the, what if you're SAB and have your address hidden? Will creating citations with the address included on the client's website get the listing in trouble? No. So you can still have your address on the website, but you're not allowed to visibly show it on your GMB listing. So I know it's a little bit weird, but that's the rules for GMB, because there's no signage. You can't show your address.
I know this is confusing because I'm always asking you a question. I'm a question behind,
Yeah.
But that's how they come in. So as a clarification, the location pages. So you know how you were talking about the map with scrolling in and out, like York and the Junction? Would you also structure your location pages and sub-location pages depending on how big or small the text is in the Google Maps? That's a question.
Yeah, I have a question. Like I thought I put it in that second, but eventually we're gonna get to it. I'm a little bit maybe I put it in the website section, so we're gonna get to that, and then okay. we'll go into the details. So, is it a good idea to target the whole country if it's your real geo target, even though you only have one location? So no, you can't do that. Google, you can set it up like that, but if Google like suspends your listing, they won't reinstate your listing because you've targeted all of the United States. You're not supposed to target more than 2 hours, about 2 hours away. That's kind of the rule. So if I'm a consultant, I'm SEO, I can do all of North America. I take clients in Australia. I'm not going to pick Canada, United States, and Australia as my service area business. Google doesn't like that. So I have to target just my province or close to myself, even though I can work with anyone. So that's the rule. And even if you pick like all of the United States, you're not going to rank all the United States. You're still going to rank by proximity. So it doesn't make any sense to do that. For SAB, should you include a physical address or not on the GMB listing? So I should have put this one first, but just to be clear, if you're an SAB and you don't have signage, you need to hide the address. So Google will ask for your address when you verify so that they can mail you that postcard. That's the only reason why they want the address, is so they can mail you that card, but then you need to hide your address. So if you don't have signage, you need to hide your address. So this is now website questions. We have 3 locations. Do all need to be on our website? And the same question with phone number. So if you have 3 locations, so I'm assuming this is like pages. So definitely, if you have 3 different locations, each one of those locations, like their listing 1 should have a page for that specific place. The general rule that I say is, like, if you have more than 4 locations, definitely have a page for each location. If you have 3, you have to take, maybe you could just list all the locations in the footer. But the important part is, when from your GMB listing, your associated website, when Google's crawling that, it needs to see some kind of location information pertaining to that location. So if you're, I'm trying to think of an example to make it easier. If you're in, town 1, town 2, and town 3, you have to have all those addresses on your footer if they're all going to the homepage. Otherwise, you make a page for town 1, a page for town 2, a page for town 3. Because you want to have the algorithm reading that specific information pertaining to that specific listing. I didn't explain that well at all. How should one construct service and location pages? So this is where I'm going to give a little bit more detail. So location pages for cities with subpages, with individual service pages, or vice versa. So I'm going to give an example here. So basically what this question is, should we structure the site? Should we do a location 1 and then service 1, 2, 3, and then location 2, service 1, 2, 3, or vice versa, where we put the service first and then do the location? So
good question.
Right. So I like to do this one. If you're going to pick these out of these two, this is the better option, because when you think about it, if I'm looking for a plumber in Toronto, I do just that. I write plumber. I type the service first. I don't type the town first, right? So I type the service is more important than the location. Google already knows your location. A lot of people don't write the location. So the service is more important in the search than the location, right? Now, the better way to do it, because if you can imagine, if you have 5 services and you're targeting 5 locations, now you just have 5, that's 5 times 5, that's 25 pages. Like it's getting exponential on you. It's hard to do that many. The better option would be to do this, where you'll have your main service should be right off the root, kind of like this, like your main service, but also your locations should be right off the root of your domain. You don't really need to go, and if you don't need to do this many pages. You can, but do it this way first. And then if you really have, and you want to really diversify your website, then you can go there, but do this first, because chances are you won't go here. It's just so much work and so much maintenance, and it's so confusing. And then interlinking between all the pages, you're going to go insane. So do your main services off the root. And you can imagine from the main menu, you can link, here are my services, 1, 2, 3. Here are my locations that I look, 1, 2, 3. So do this. This is better. Do this second, and then this don't do. Okay, if a website is a large ranking factor, what should we be doing with our website? So that's a humongous
that's a
question.
whole webinar.
Yeah, that's the whole webinar from last time. I just wanted to throw it in. So basically, all the optimization that you do for organic ranking is the same factors for your Google Maps ranking. So it's like the algorithm, and then the Google Maps rankings is like added, right? So it has extra information, it has proximity, it has reviews, it has all that, but it's based off of the organic. So optimize your website in all the normal ways that you would optimize a website. Is it worth having the free GMB business website in addition to your main website? So there's a free GMB on your that comes with your listing. Sure, activate it. It doesn't, if you don't have a website, then definitely activate it, because that's what you want to use. But if you already have a huge, a good, strong website, then you can still activate it, and it acts as an extra citation. There's no reason not to turn that on. And when things are updated, it's going to update automatically. So yes, turn it on.
Hey, Jan, let's address this one real quick, just because it may affect how people hear this information. Because Guillaume asked, he says, "Hi, I'm new here," and it may be a stupid question, but I'm from France, and so parlez-vous français? Can you do the whole webinar in French? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's not the question. He says, and is GMB functioning the same worldwide, or does it specifically function differently per country?
No, everything works the same. All the ranking factors are the same. Everything's the same. Google doesn't have specific things for specific regions, and that's one of the reasons why you'll see weird rules. Is because, well, it doesn't make sense for North American businesses, but it makes sense for businesses in India, because their culture is different, and the way they do things is different. Google wants one rule for the whole world, and so it's sometimes it's weird for us, but it works well for them. So it's the same. Did I do this? Yeah.
Dean kind of asked a good question here too, based on you talking about the website lifting the GMB ranking. Does it work in reverse? Does a good GMB lift the website?
No.
No. All right, nice try, Dean. I was with you on that one.
No, it's like on top. So, okay. So would you advise to embed the GMB URL into the website? So I wasn't sure what this meant exactly. I would say no, like don't take your GMB. The only reason why you would embed your GMB link onto your website is like to link to it to like maybe try to get like, leave a review. And so you link to your GMB from your website type of thing, right? That's how you would do it. But although it doesn't create any ranking factor directly. So the other thing I thought about is sometimes people do this. They'll embed a map on their website, and I see this often. Is they'll embed a map and they'll put on their contact page or sometime in their footer, and they'll put there's our location, and they'll just put their address. They'll embed the map of the address. But what you can do, and it's better if you have good reviews, is embed the map of your location, and it'll show this with your reviews and your business name instead of just a location, right? If you don't have a lot of good reviews, then don't do that, because then you're highlighting.
Then get them.
Right. Yes. So that's how you would embed a map is do it this way, and that it's easy to when you go to Google Maps, you just hit share, and then embed is an option from that. I have a client and are unable to add products to their listing. So there's a technical question. So this has been years, and I didn't realize it was still a problem, but apparently it is because they asked last month. Some listings can't have product tabs because they were created before, and there's a technical glitch and you can't get them. I was told that it was going to be fixed a long time ago, but apparently it's not. So you can't do anything about it. It's a technical glitch from Google, and unfortunately, it's like one of those too bad for you type of things. Yeah, I mean, you got that's the truth. It's not a perfect system by any means when Google puts things in place. Suspension. Can you get suspended for claiming a listing with an email address from a different domain? No, Google doesn't care who claims the listing on what email you're using. You claim it from a Gmail, from your own domain mail. You could put users, doesn't make a difference. So there's no risk there. The only thing, the risk is if you're owning, like if you're an owner or manager of 10 listings, let's say you're an agency and you have a lot of listings in your dashboard, and then a couple of them get suspended, and Google says, oh, well, that email is associated with a lot of suspended listings. We're going to flag the email, and then all the listings will get suspended. So you can screw a lot of your clients if you accept people that are a little bit off and shady, and Google starts to not trust your agency email anymore. So that's what I would be careful about. So you split them up at that point. Put descriptions for services right from the website, and the account got suspended. So on your GMB, there's a services area, and you can add descriptions in there. And he's saying that he just copied and pasted over from his website, and he got suspended. No, that absolutely won't suspend you. The reason you got suspended is that you're probably in a flagged category. So there's some categories that Google sees a lot of spam in, and any change whatsoever to your listing will cause a suspension. Because it's like if you're a carpet cleaner, a garage door repair, things like that, a lot of service area businesses are on high alert. So you make one change and Google will suspend your listing, and then you have to re-verify. Google's trying to clean stuff up. So that's what happened. So no, don't worry about that. Karate schools in the neighborhood. How do we ensure that businesses in the GMB, which are less than a mile apart, do not cannibalize themselves in Google Maps? So this question is, if you have a lot of businesses that are close to each other, Google won't show all of them. So you can imagine a large office building, and there's 20 lawyers in that one office building, and you type it in. Google's not going to show you all 20 from that one building because it likes variety. It's going to show you one from that building and then a couple from other places. And so that's what we call cannibalization in the map, is that you're too close to a competitor that's using a category that's the same as yours. 1 mile apart is okay. The general rule is if you're about 200 meters, so that's what I found, 200 meters close to each other, then Google might choose you or the other person. So you're going to get, one of them is going to get filtered out basically. And to fix that, there's a trick, but I'm not going to tell you now. There's a trick to try to fix that. But what you really need to do besides using the trick is to boost your SEO. You got to be stronger than the other guy, and Google will choose you and filter out the other guy. Do you think Google will place less ranking emphasis on the business name field anytime soon? So no, I don't think so. I've explained it before. Google needs the business name field to rank strong because it has to work for brands. So if I type in Home Depot or Lowe's or name brand, Google has to show me 5 Lowe's locations that are nearby, right? So it really needs to have that in place like that. So no, it's not going to change anytime soon. So next question that's similar, what will happen if you change the title? So now I want to add keywords into my GMB name because they're a ranking factor, right? So what happens if I do that? Well, you can do it. And if you don't get suspended right away, it'll stay there and it'll help you. One thing that might happen is that someone will flag you. They'll either fix the name or they'll flag you and Google will suspend you. If you're suspended, then it might take a couple days, it might take a week before you get reinstated. So be careful of just adding it willy-nilly. I just want to put my keywords in my name. Don't do that. Support, do it the right way. So can you do it legally if you provide a DBA to Google? Yes. If you rebrand your business, if you get business cards that have that full name, if you put a sign outside your building with that full name with all your keywords in it, Google will accept that as proof. So you don't have to actually register your business with the government. You can put a sign. Now I know sometimes signs are not cheap, but that's what you would do to officially do it by Google. And you're not breaking the law. In this case, no, you're not breaking the law if you do that. It's just a Google guideline that you're breaking. Do it with signage, do it the right way, and then you're going to be safe. You won't have to think, oh, well, my listing gets suspended today because I put extra keywords, right? You don't want to do that when you're laying down at night. Is there a drop? So we're going to talk about categories now. Is there a drop off in value when adding too many categories? No, there's no category dilution. There's been tests of that. Dentists have a lot, lawyers have a lot of categories to choose from. If they make sense, add them in. I don't know where this, why someone would say don't put more than 5. I've not seen any of that. There's no maximum, right?
I thought that question actually was about cats. Are you penalized?
Yeah. Well, they did it like that.
And I was like, sometimes you can have too many cats.
10 cats is too much. 10 categories, if they apply, not too much. Make sure that each one of those categories has a matching service page. So that way Google is lining up the information from your website to the categories and everything is high trust. So that's what you would need to do. I want to change my secondary business category to primary and vice versa. Any negatives to this? So no, well, there's a small negative. Again, if you're in a high, spam industry and your category is under surveillance, I guess you could say, any changes are going to suspend your listing. But it might be worth it even there, because if you're a gym and you're doing, I don't know, in Quebec, it's a weird place. There's a place, it's a gym, but it's also a pool supply place, and they switch depending on the season. Or let me get a better example, HVAC, right? Furnace repair or AC repair, right? When it's the summer, you want your AC repair to be your primary. And in the winter, you want your furnace repair to be your primary. Switch them because it's going to make a huge difference. So the only negatives is you might get suspended. If you're a legit business, that doesn't matter because you're going to win in the long run. So we're going to go to photos, and this is the question we get every single time. Metadata in photos, is it helpful to rankings? So I always answer the same way. We do it in DBA because it's automatic, right? if it is helping, we can't measure it because, I mean, we're talking about all these ranking factors. Can you imagine Google caring? Like it's not gonna make you go from 20 to 1 in ranking because you put metadata in your image, right? If it helps, it's going to be a small amount, but we can't isolate that. It's impossible to isolate that. So a lot of SEOs will say, don't bother doing it. It's not helpful. We can't measure it. If you're doing it automatically, like through DBA, where it auto tags when you upload through our system, it doesn't take any extra time. So you might as well do it. But if you're doing it manually, don't do it, because now you're wasting time, because you could do better things with that time. Do user uploaded images help more than owner published images? Now that's a good question, and I am not sure because I've never tested that. I would guess no. An image is an image, and it's not the quantity of images, it's the engagement on the images. So the more people click. So if people are adding images, I don't think it counts more than the owner adding images. It's all the images better or worse, or people caring more about it and doing that kind of stuff. So I'm going to say they're equal, but I've never tested it. If you have FAQs on your website and use the same content on GMB, is it considered duplicate content? So no, you can definitely, and we do it all the time, take your FAQ from your website and add it to your GMB listing. And you can't do it through the dashboard. You have to do it through the knowledge panel, but definitely create those those, you know, in the question and answer section. That's what it's called on your knowledge panel. So definitely add 4 or 5 questions of people of question that people are always asking. That way, you know, what people, I have a question about that business and I don't feel like calling them because I don't have, oh, but the question and answer is right there. Boom, you just created trust with that user. You already connected without even them having to call you, right? Is it still recommended to only post once every 7 days? Yeah, so Google has not changed that. They say post every 7 days. The important thing is consistency here. Engagement on the posts are the ranking factor, not the posts themselves. And so you want to have a consistent flow of information to your users, right? So posting every 7 days is what Google recommends. If you can't do every 7 days, then do every 10 days or every 14 days, but do the maximum that you can. And with DBA, what you do is you schedule them all out, you write them all out, you sit down for half an hour, you write them out, you schedule them, you put them in the system, and then you don't have to think about it, right? Because that's what happens with business owners. They won't, oh, I don't have time this week to do it. I don't have time this week to do it. And then 6 months go by and then you haven't done a post, right? Do it all at once. It's much more efficient with a system like ours, because you know what you're doing. I'm doing this task, I'm completing it, I'm scheduling it. I don't have to think about it for the next 6 months or the next year. What's not allowed inside the post? So Google doesn't like stock imagery, and it will flag, it'll take down your post if you have stock photos. It doesn't like too much text on top of a photo. So if you're like putting your branding and putting lots of stuff on you know, if you're taking pictures of things with lots of words, it doesn't like that, and will flag the image and take your post down. There's a lot of words in the post content, and the same thing with the reviews, where Google will filter certain words that are not really meant, that like they're not bad. You know, like there's one specific example where if you're a plumber and you're writing about toilets, Google's gonna flag that because you put the word toilet, because toilet could be used in a derogatory way. So you're not allowed to use the word toilet. So what do plumbers do, right? So there's some words. At that point, you go to support and say, hey, look, please put my post back up, and then they might do that for you. But there's some words that get filtered that will cause a filter that are normal words. What about reposting the same post later? Yeah, that's fine. Just don't do them all in a row. Again, there's no duplicate content on your Google listing. If you have to recycle because you don't have enough content, then do it every quarter and recycle it. People are not going to click back. You know, if you're doing it every week, people are not going to click back 20 posts. Oh, look, there's a duplicate. Like, no one's going to do that. So definitely repost, but don't have like 5 in a row because that looks a little bit weird. I've seen that before. The same picture, the same post every week. That's a little bit lame. So
in fact, in pro services where we do posts for people, we do a training and we sort of explain that the posts that go up on GMB, they're not like Facebook posts. This is not like where people are going to be interacting with your stuff all the time and see all your new information. This is more like top of the funnel marketing activity where, you know, somebody's looking for something. That's how they find your profile. And so it should be, you should have 5 to 10 good post messages for probably new clients, like maybe talking about different services, offering a coupon, things like that. And then you should recycle them. This is really an ad space for you more than it is really like any kind of like keeping in touch with people, because your regular consumers are not going to your GMB profile to see what you've posted today. On that note, Chris asked, would posting every day hurt your ranking? And the answer to that is no, right? But it's just diminishing returns for your time, right?
Yeah, I think that's too much, because then they're going to get lost. People are not going to go back. They're going to look at the last 2, 3, 4, if even, right? So you don't need to bury your post.
How much activity or how many views is considered good by Google? Chris asked.
Oh, that's gonna vary by industry, and I don't have those numbers in front of me. So and you know, popular listings are going to get a lot more, like restaurants and things like that. So I don't have numbers like that.
Yeah.
So again, content in your post. Can I put emojis? I also see a question a lot of time. Can we put hashtags? I don't think you could put I think you could put emojis. I don't think it's discouraged. I haven't tried to see if with emojis. I think you can still put them, but Google changes the rules. I don't think they'll, because you can put still emojis in a GMB title and they still don't care. So I'm assuming if they could do it in a title, you could do it in a post. But don't put hashtags. It's okay. But it's not like Facebook or Twitter where you put a hashtag and it actually links up to something. It doesn't. Don't put phone numbers in the content of a post. It's going to get filtered. There's that button, you know, that's what that button is for when you're creating a post to call. That's where you put your phone number. Don't put the phone number in the content of a post. Does the content of a review help ranking? Does a picture in a review help ranking? So this is hard. Again, we can't measure it directly. I went and searched up a listing, and here's an example of a restaurant. And you're going to see where people say, well, what if there's a lot of keywords in my reviews and I get it often? So what Google is going to do is going to put these cards, they call them cards. I don't, Google is done with names. So, you know, tasting menu got mentioned 34 times. Sculpture got mentioned 7 times. So Google is reading the reviews and trying to make it easier by grouping them for users. So what this does is it helps users click on it. So again, the engagement is important. So if I see something like this, well, if I click on, you know, sculpture, Google's going to show me all the 7 reviews that mention sculpture, right? And so a click on the listing is an engagement. To go back, when people add images, like this person added images, and you can even see this scroll, she added a ton more. I'm clicking on those images when I'm scrolling. I'm seeing that I'm blowing it up. I want to see what they look like. That's engagement on a listing. So all that is helping. So to go back to this question, does a picture in a review help ranking? Yeah, it does help, because it creates a lot more engagement, and it's a huge trust boost for a user. But it depends, right? So either people will add images to a review when it's really, really good, or it's really, really bad, right? I got my soup and there's a bug in my soup here. Oh, I'm going to take a picture and do a bad review. Or my food was amazing. Look at it, and I'm going to take a picture and send a review, right? So, but either way, engagement is good on your listing. So encourage people to take pictures if you're proud of your business. How to report bad reviews. So I gave Ryan a link so he could put that. So anything about reporting listings and reviews, you flag it through the listing itself, suggest an edit and flag, and then if it doesn't come down in a few days, use the redressal form to submit that. Same thing with a negative review. flag it. If not, then use the redressal form. If it doesn't work, then you can go to the forum. Getting reviews removed is hard unless they're specifically saying breaking, like writing something that broke the guidelines. Like, I used to work here and it's a really bad place. Well, employees or former employees are not allowed to post. And so that will get removed because they specifically said something that is against guidelines. Otherwise, it's really, really hard. If a client hasn't answered reviews for a year or a long time, should they go back and answer everyone? Go back 6 months. You're writing the replies, not for the person who left the review. It's mostly for new people who are seeing. And when they see an engaged business owner, then they think that business is good, or it boosts their trust level of that, right? So go back if it's not too arduous. If you're a restaurant and you have 1 million reviews in a year, then don't. Google, people won't go back more than a few months. So go back a few months if you can. So I have a client that has reviews that are not showing up, basically. So yes, we talked about a lot of reviews are getting filtered. If you think that the review should not have gotten filtered, then go to this Google support forum and say, hey, someone left me a review. They showed me a screenshot that they left it and it got ghosted. I don't see anything wrong with it. Can you please reinstate it? You can ask support for that. So just go to support, or you can go to the Google form and ask, and they will put it back on. This one says, I have 158 5-star reviews and everything is 5 stars. Is that bad? So no, I mean, getting 5 stars is not bad. There have been studies.
Us crazy. We're losing our minds.
There have been studies that say, well, 4.8 is better than 5, because if it's all 5, people might think it's fake. But if you've proven that you're a 5-star business and it shows in the reviews and your replies and that kind of stuff in your service, then don't get bad reviews on purpose, obviously. So aim for 5, but people say that the studies show that maybe 4.8, because some people like to see the bad review. I filter, I'll read the good ones and I'll read the bad ones, and just to see how the business owner responded, to see if maybe that 1-star review was a crazy person, and the business owner, if the business owner replies like a crazy person, then I'm like, oh, well, that's weird. But if the business owner replies professionally, well, then that lifts the business in my eyes, right? Do you have any suggestions for getting an outlier negative review or FAQ removed? So again, go to support if you have stuff to get removed that has to break guidelines, very, very specific, very specific guidelines. The other thing that goes along with that is, normally in a knowledge panel, you'll see Google is pulling in 2 good reviews and highlighting 2 and then 1 bad one. And it's just normal process that Google has. It's really hard to switch these out. It's really hard to switch these out. You have to do a lot of work to get new reviews. And just one trick that I've learned is that if you try to, if you get a review that has some of the same words and the same sentiment, like this sentiment is negative, so it's almost kind of like you're tricking. Put a negative sentiment review, but make it 5-star, then Google will pull it in, because it's not really caring about the star. It's reading the sentiment of the actual text here. So I won't go into details, but that's hard. It's really hard to do.
I've seen that, and I wondered why somebody would say something negative and then leave a 5-star review. Now I get it.
Yeah. How do you know when Google makes changes? So this is my last slide. Is there a newsletter or something that we can subscribe to that alerts you to new change? Well, that's what this webinar is for. Every day I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm reading blogs. There's a lot of time that I spend just keeping up to date. And so there's like hundreds of SEO newsletters that you can, but then even there, it's hard to even keep track of all of those. So I try to give you, everything for GMB or GPB here. And that's why I do the category updates, because those are super important. So just, and in the Facebook group, if I have new stuff to share, I share it. But there's lots of forums and newsletters and things and Twitter. It's impossible to keep track of everything, but we do our best. The product experts that I hang out with, basically, we all share information, like Sarah was saying. we have conversations about what people are seeing and things like that. So keep in touch with us, and then you'll know what's up to date.
Awesome. Well, I have about 1 million new questions. So this is where we test Jan's knowledge on the fly. Delfino asked, are you able to address strategies to combat the relatively new, or at least to Delfino, phenomenon where con artists claim that they're the business owner and try to rob GMB profiles? Obviously, even the best SEO account isn't helpful if it gets poached.
So the thing I do about listings is I never only put one owner on a listing. Always have 2 emails. It's for security. So you have a primary owner and you have an owner of 2 emails that you control as the business owner. That way, if one email gets lost or something happens, you're always in control. You should be receiving an email where someone says, someone is claiming your listing, and you have to deny. You have to be careful and deny that. But normally you shouldn't be able to lose access, because they'll be, a new PIN will be sent to your place. And unless they get access to that PIN, then it shouldn't happen. It should be relatively difficult for that to happen. But always keep 2 email accounts as an owner on your GMB in case something does happen. And because usually what happens is, so people will come to the forum, I got suspended and I don't remember my login. Well, that makes it super hard to fix, right? So, but if you had a second login, then you would be able to fix it.
You think they'd remember the second login if they didn't remember the first login?
By making that effort of making the second one, they might clue in to say, well, this is important, right?
Right, that's true. Keep good records. Travis asked, last meeting you talked about photo AI. I think about organic fruit. Can you go more into this? And have you used cloud.google.com/vision to optimize photos?
Yeah, so we're doing a test with AirCam right now. So we're testing to see if Google is actually paying attention to what's in the image, because it can understand what the image is. Our preliminary results are saying that it is helpful for the main categories. So, you can't just throw anything up there and then Google will associate it. It has to be for your main, but the test isn't finalized. But definitely you can do that. If you're at a higher advanced level and you're really going into detail on your images and your posts, then definitely use the Google Vision AI, upload 5 variations of a picture and see what Google says is the best one for your keyword and use that one.
Ben is asking a question about, this is back to the map when you were scrolling out and you were saying, look at the towns and then the smaller, ones. Would you do that for counties instead of towns?
Yeah, so if the county makes sense to, it depends on the area, right? Some people will search by county because they're in more rural area and they'll search by county. I don't know if Google will do that. I haven't really looked at it. I usually check on major cities and you'll see all those variations of the towns. But if people normally search by county, then that's what you're going to want to do. So you have to, you have to use your best judgment on what people are actually doing on the ground.
Travis asks a tricky political question here. I received an email from Google 2 days ago. Find out what new tech regulation means to your business. Are you concerned as Google is claiming to be about, are you as concerned as Google is claiming to be about how this could change GMB?
I didn't think about it because I won't have any control. If the government forces Google to change how search is shown, how it's displayed, then we adapt, and that's the only thing we can do as the SEO, and that's what we do, is we adapt to the changes regardless if Google did it on purpose or if they got forced to do it. So I'm not concerned because the landscape is changing so quickly anyway. It's just another change if it happens.
Tyler asks, how do you remove a residential address if they aren't using signage? So I'm assuming that means reporting somebody. I don't know.
No, I read it as, I understand as if you go into your listing you go to the address section. At the bottom of the address section, there's a button that says clear address. If you try to delete the field, then it won't work. You have to hit clear address, and then that's how you go and do that.
Okay.
If you have questions about that, go to Facebook, because I don't want anyone to mess up their listings. If you're not sure, go to Facebook, ask in Facebook, and I will, and give me more details.
Yep. Again, if we don't get to any of a question that you asked, feel free to go to the private Facebook group and ask the question, and we'll try to get to it there too. Angus asks, how does Google treat the same service that has a different name in different countries? So for example, in the UK, we might call it a care home, where in the US, it's senior living. And he says, should I optimize for the US terminology or the UK?
Well, you would optimize for where the people are searching from. So if they're located in the UK and that's the words that they use, I mean, that's keyword research stuff. So you go back into your GMB insights and you look at the keywords that are showing up, and you use those keywords of one of the places you use in Search Console and Keyword Planner, but that's basic keyword research. Normally, if Google chose something, because they have linguists that that's why people say, well, can we just add a new category? It's like, well, no, because Google has to translate that into 100 languages, right? And they don't just put a new category. So if Google has used a certain term, it's because they studied that and chose that on purpose. So sometimes they're wrong and we'll update it, but normally not.
Yeah, so use what is local nomenclature there. Travis asked, what about Gifs? And he asked that when we were talking about posts.
Right, so you can, when you upload the images, when you upload posts, even in the services or the product sections, you can upload, you could kind of trick Google, and instead of putting, you make a GIF and then relabel it as a JPEG, upload it, Google will accept it and it'll move. That works, it looks cool, but I've seen tests, internal tests that say it doesn't increase click-through rate. So you're doing extra work for something that may not do anything. So it looks cool, but it's not creating extra leads. And that's what that's what we measured is leads, and it doesn't create extra leads.
Demetrius asked, currently I manage more than 30 listings via GMB Panel. Will I lose connectivity via GMB Panel?
No. So I think this is a question about, so when Google changed the name Google My Business to Google Business Profile at the same time, but a separate issue, we're internally, we're calling it NMX. So Google calls it the new merchant experience. So if you go, while you're logged into your Gmail account, you type in your business name and you're going to see a new section. I have a video on my YouTube channel if you want to check it. I don't have time to really explain, but if you do a branded search while you're logged in, you can access a lot of the dashboard functionality straight through your Google search page. That is on top. That's like getting added. So it's an extra way for you to access your information. The GMB dashboard is not going away. That's staying. You could always do that. But Google has added a new way.
That's good to know. This one's interesting. Sherman asked, how closely connected is GMB or GPB or GBP with Bing or Yahoo? In other words, it seems that if you're not listing well in Google, it seems to be the same with Bing and Yahoo. Why is that?
Well, I guess it's just eating all the information that it finds, right? It's just compiled. So if there's not a lot of information out there of websites and citations, and maybe a website is crummy, Bing has crawlers the same way as Google has crawlers. So and Bing copies Google, so whatever Google does, Bing is copying. So they're just a few steps behind. So you can imagine that the algorithm is working almost exactly the same. And so if you're bad for one, you're going to be bad for another.
Thank you guys so much for attending, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ryan.